On June 9, 2026, Anthropic released its most powerful AI model ever made available to the public. 3 hours later, researchers found something hidden inside a 319-page document that Anthropic never announced, and by the next morning, Anthropic had to publicly walk it back. Here's exactly what happened. First, some context, because this story only lands if you understand what Claude Fable 5 actually is. Anthropic has a tier of models called Mythos class, sitting above their flagship Opus line in raw capability. The first of these, Claude Mythos Preview, was released back in April through a restricted program called Project Glasswing. It was limited to a small group of organizations because Anthropic said it was simply too dangerous to release to the public. If you watched my last video on Project Glasswing, you already know that part of the story. On June 9th, Anthropic released Claude Fable 5, the first Mythos-class model that anyone with an API key could actually use. Their own words, Fable 5's capabilities exceed those of any model they have ever made generally available. State-of-the-art on nearly all tested benchmarks. Exceptional performance in software engineering, knowledge work, vision, and scientific research. What does that look like in the real world? Stripe tested the model on a 50 million-line Ruby codebase and reported that Fable 5 completed a full migration in a single day, work that would have taken an entire engineering team over 2 months by hand. It also played through Pokemon Fire Red from start to finish using nothing but raw visual screenshots of the game screen, with no maps, no navigation aids, and no extra tools. This is not a chatbot upgrade. This is a different class of machine. Now, Anthropic was upfront about one thing when they launched Fable 5. Because of its power, the model comes with guardrails. In high-risk areas like cybersecurity, biology, and chemistry, Fable 5 blocks the response and hands you off to Claude Opus 4.8 instead. You get a visible notification when this happens. Anthropic says this fallback triggers in less than 5% of sessions on average. That part was disclosed, transparent, debatable, but honest. But buried inside that 319-page document, one paragraph told a completely different story. When Anthropic releases a powerful model, they publish what's called a system card, a detailed safety disclosure document. For Fable 5, that document runs 319 pages long. Inside that document, researchers found a paragraph revealing that Fable 5 would quietly downgrade its own responses when it detected requests related to cutting-edge AI development work, things like building the infrastructure used to train large AI models. Here is why this is different from every other restriction. With cybersecurity and biology, Fable openly redirects you to a weaker model with a visible notification. You know what is happening. But the system card stated this AI research restriction was, and I am quoting directly, not visible to the user. The model would still respond. It just would not give you its real answer, and it would never tell you that. You would pay for the most powerful AI ever released to the public, ask it a serious research question, get a deliberately weakened answer back, and never know the difference. Anthropic estimated this would affect roughly 0.03% of traffic. Their defense was that this approach avoids accelerating the actors most willing to violate their terms, less than 0.1% of users. But those users would have no idea it was happening. The AI research community found it within hours, and the response was not quiet. Nathan Lambert, an open model researcher who most recently led work at the Allen Institute for AI, said the situation was appalling and painted Anthropic as anti-science, and therefore anti-progress and anti-safety. Dean Ball, a senior fellow at the Foundation for American Innovation and former senior policy advisor at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, said this policy massively and profoundly raises the status of the argument that AI safety has been hype to justify monopolistic behavior by labs. Jeremy Howard, head of nonprofit research group Fast AI, put the sharpest point on it. He wrote that Anthropic has chosen the opposite of the safe path. They are allowing themselves, the current top lab, to use their top model for frontier AI research, and they have said they will sabotage others who try. And then came the voice that probably stung the most. Ben Amnishabur, who previously co-led Anthropic's own effort to develop an AI scientist, posted this: "Working on AI for cancer. Sorry, I cannot help you. working on AI for Alzheimer's disease. Sorry, I am becoming a bit dumb when it comes to the AI part of it. A former Anthropic employee, using Anthropic's own words, against Anthropic. By the next day, Anthropic reversed course. They walked back the policy that had covertly limited Fable 5's ability to be used for AI research. No dramatic press conference, no detailed public apology, just a quiet reversal. And not everyone was critical in the first place. Ethan Mollick, an associate professor at Wharton who studies AI and innovation, wrote that Fable 5 outperformed basically every other public model he had used by a considerable margin. Andrej Karpathy, former OpenAI co-founder and Tesla AI director, who joined Anthropic last month, called it a major version bump deserving step change forward, while noting the safeguards were configured to be a little too trigger-happy at launch. The capability itself is not in dispute. What happened inside those 319 pages is, here is what this whole episode actually tells you about where we are right now. Anthropic spent April warning the world that AI is moving too fast and needs to slow down. 5 weeks later, they released their most powerful public model ever, with a hidden restriction buried so deep that the average user would never find it in 319 pages. They got caught not by a journalist, not by a government regulator, by researchers, in 3 hours, on launch day. All of this is happening as Anthropic moves toward an IPO, having filed its confidential paperwork with regulators just 1 week before Fable 5 launched. And for those who already watched my Project Glasswing video, Claude Mythos 5, the version of this same model with the safety classifiers fully removed, is still running right now through Glasswing for a select group of organizations. That part has not changed. The most powerful AI the public has ever had access to launched with a secret restriction. The restriction got found. Anthropic reversed it. What else is in those 319 pages?